Okay, students, we'll be getting started really soon once Scott gives us the okay.
All right, we're live. So if you want to start the recording, I can take down the screen.
All right. Hey, hello, everybody. My name is Hector Verdugo. I'm the Senior Vice President of Admissions at Academy of Art University, San Francisco, California, USA. I hope everybody is off to a wonderful day today. I see a lot of folks out there again today for an exciting workshop where we're going to be going over photography. Lots to cover today. We have even some special guests in the house. We have a couple of our students that are going to be helping us and assisting. So who better to hear from than Mackenzie and Rachel as students to talk a little bit about their experience, but also help out with some of our demos today. So as I always do, I'm gonna go ahead and buy us a little bit of time for more people to join, and we continue to have people coming in here. First thing I wanna do is make sure that I point this out. If you look down below, if you have not already, make sure you've identified the chat icon. And once you've clicked that chat icon, please go from all panelists to all panelists and attendees. Today, I'm going to be moderating and making sure that I answer questions in the chat, but more importantly, making this an interactive feature so that what I can do is ensure that I take your questions, give them to our talent over here, and they can interact with you and make sure to get all your information to you, okay? So getting started today, where is everybody from? Let me give some shout outs here. We have Fort Worth, Texas in the house. James, what's going on? I see LA, New York, Las Vegas. I saw the UAE is in the house tonight. How's it going, United Emirates? Houston, Texas, H-Town, Pennsylvania, San Diego's in the house. Anaheim, Los Angeles again, born and raised. Hello from Chile, hola out there. Atlanta, Georgia's in the house. We have Washington, Destin, Florida. Elizabeth from El Paso, thank you for being here tonight. So people all over the world, Nelson and Fremont's in the house. We have Brazil, Hawaii, Flint, Michigan. I see you, Corey. Thanks for being here. Genevieve and El Paso. We have Beijing, China in the house. Good morning out there. Nihama. Yes. I see Cincinnati, Ohio's in the house. So thank you all so much for being here. This is Jamaica. Hey, how's it going out there in Jamaica, Courtney? So this is the first thing I want to do. For all of you who have been, hopefully you haven't been living under a rock. You've probably heard of Instagram, right? So tonight, one of the things that I want to do is I want to make sure as we're doing photography, everybody here can participate. And to make this fun, we're going to have a hashtag. So all the photos that we take tonight, we want to make sure that we're using the hashtag lighting photo challenge. So any photos you've taken personally, any of your cool work that you want to show off, anything that we work on tonight, let's make sure to go ahead and post it. You can tag the Academy of Art University. You can also make sure that you use that hashtag so we can check out all the cool work that we do tonight. It brings everybody together. It's super cool. And I'll be on Instagram as well tonight to do that. Last thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I promote our next event as well while I have the time. Tuesday, same time next week, 7 p.m. This is the RSVP link to our music workshop. So doesn't matter if you're interested in music or sound or anything like that. If that's not your major, but you still want to participate and learn some cool stuff, we have Brad Hughes, our department director, will be working on this workshop himself personally. This guy's super talented, should be a lot of fun. And I know that people were able to learn some new things. So feel free to join that event if you can. So without further ado, let me go ahead and start passing this over to the talent here today that's in the house to help us out. Can everybody hear me here? There we go. Sorry about that. So I want to go ahead and just introduce the talent here for everybody and make sure that we're all on the same page with who our hosts are tonight. So we have John. John is going to actually be helping us out tonight. He is one of our faculty members. So a little bit about John, if you don't know. He's had an interest in photography from a very young age. It actually comes from his uncle, who's a well-known photographer that really sparked his interest and enthusiasm for the camera. So John is born and raised in San Francisco, California's Bay Area, and his love for both photography and people eventually led him to Milan, Italy, where he lived for 3 years to fully immerse himself and learn. So for almost 2 decades, he's worked in both large corporate campaigns with individuals alike, to hone his skills of visual storytelling. He's very passionate about creating authentic and compelling photographs that capture a subject's true essence. He's also dedicated to passing his knowledge of photography to other students, and he's going on about 25 years here at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. One of the things we talked about, he said he's the oldest faculty member, but what he meant was, I have been here the longest in photography, not I'm the oldest. So anyway, we all want to keep our youth, right?
I think.
Yeah, well, unofficially, right? But
Unofficially.
and on a personal note too, with John, he lives in San Francisco right now with his wife and 2 children and his 1971 Ford Bronco. So, and also last but not least, I want to make sure that we introduce, we have Rachel Holmes, one of our students here to participate tonight. And we also have Mackenzie. And Mackenzie, I'm so sorry on your last name. It cuts off at the letter S. So we can make sure that we introduce you. Mackenzie Smith. Mackenzie Smith. All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here. And last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say thank you so much, as always, to Scott, Kathleen, all the people behind the scenes that put these things on. Before we even get started, just want to say thank you so much. So, hey, I'll be here in the chat today. I'm going to be the one to try to do a lot of the questions and Q&A for everybody. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to you to John, because light and time is sensitive today. So here you go, John Vano. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Hector, and thank you, everybody, for joining. This is great. I can't believe how many people from all over are attending this. So anyway, this is kind of an introduction to lighting in kind of a basic way, and we have some different things that we're going to be introducing, both, you know, my students, Mackenzie and Rachel. I have some things that I want to talk about. But by all means, and it's important, if there's, you know, I'm speaking too quickly or there's confusion, please chime in and ask questions, because it's important that everything that is mentioned is understood, because of all the different things that we're going to be talking about. So, and again, I don't want to make it like I'm rushing, but I am a little bit, because we're losing light here on the West Coast. But a lot of people have asked me, non-photo majors especially, hey, I do sculpture, I do jewelry, I do this, I do that, and I want to do photographs of it, but I don't know how to light it, I don't know where to start. You know, I own a basic camera, but I'm not sure how to use it. So I brought in one of my still life shooters, product shooters, Rachel Holmes. She's about to graduate this semester. She's also a current student in my advanced location lighting class. And I'm going to start with her, and she's going to do a demo. But again, by all means, if there are questions, please chime in. I'm going to hand it over to Rachel here, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Thank you, John. So this is my setup right behind me, and I can show you how the light is coming in right now. So this is a simple window light setup that anyone can do at home. And I'll show you the shots that I've taken. Right here. So this is a really soft lighting scenario, and that's probably the best lighting scenario for a jewelry or metal object. And that's what we're shooting today, this beautiful necklace and earring set. But if you did want to do something with more strong shadows, you could use like a shop light or construction light. And then this is the second image that I shot, and you can have stronger, more prominent shadows, but you're also going to get these small little highlights on the edge of your image as well, on the edge of your metal. And then this is the kind of light that you would use for that. It's like a construction light, shop light. And you can see the comparison in these two shots and how much softer the shadow is on the image on the left compared to the image on the right. And that really comes from the diffused lighting coming through the window, as opposed to a hard directional light.
Rachel, can you
directly on the subject?
Can you zoom in on each of them for a comparison to show the viewer the shadow difference? So you can see on the left, and again, it's just basically having your object near a window. Now, if the window light has direct sunlight through it, you want to diffuse with any material. It could be a white sheet, It could be tracing paper, anything that is going to still allow light to pass through, but yet it becomes more diffused and soft. If you look at the metal object, or the jewelry on the left-hand side, you can see that the shadows are very, very soft. The highlights in the metal are maybe a little bit longer. Some people find that to be a little bit more pleasing. Whereas you go to the right, and you can hold up the shop light again there, Rachel.
Oh yeah.
And a shop light is something you buy at like say like at a home improvement store, a Home Depot, or what have you. The shadows have a tendency to be a little bit stronger, a little bit, maybe in some cases, a little bit unpleasing, depending on what you're trying to do. But again, there's nothing wrong. And I'd say, and to be safe, window light for portraiture, for still life, shooting almost anything is such a go-to in the photographic world. It's a safe bet. It can be easily modified, again, through materials. When I say materials, a white sheet, I say vellum or tracing paper, vellum and tracing paper being the same thing. You can add light, like take a light and shoot it through a window, believe it or not. Some people have done that. But I think this is a good example, what Rachel is showing here, to kind of differentiate between the two qualities of light and how they're used. Rachel, I'm going to ask you, are you a big go-to with window light, or is that something that's part of your arsenal?
I generally don't shoot with window light. I like the control of strobes and artificial light. But if I am, I do like the quality of window light. So if I'm in a pinch and I don't have the equipment for shooting with strobe, I will default to window light, because I do like the soft shadows and the quality of light that it offers.
Hey, Rachel, a couple of people asked, what software are we seeing right now? Is this Photoshop up?
This is Capture One. It's a software where you can shoot directly to your computer, so you see exactly what you're shooting as you're shooting. So you don't have to keep looking at the back of your camera. You can just look at full screen on your computer. It's really great.
The other question, or a comment I should say, so a lot of people are so accustomed to hearing Photoshop. A lot of people are accustomed to hearing Lightroom, and Photoshop is probably the more mainstream of the bunch. But Capture One is something that we typically use at the Academy, and you can use Capture One for, correct me if I'm wrong, students, you can use it for manipulations, maybe not advanced manipulations like, say, Photoshop, but Capture One is something that is definitely a go-to. It makes life easy when you're shooting, just to see it. Like you can see here, it's so well organized. You can see the differences. It has all her metadata. When I say metadata, it's basically history. Like we basically know what that camera had for breakfast with Capture One. That's what it really comes down to, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that we are really big on at the Academy, is having things very organized, having things methodical. So in the event you want to repeat the results, or you need to kind of be a little bit forensic about what you did, it's laid out very well. And again, I think you know, Rachel did a really great job of demonstrating that with you know, her shot. Just out of curiosity, what camera are you using to shoot this, Rachel?
Canon 6D Mark II.
Okay, got you. And you've been pretty happy with it, correct?
Yeah, reasonably happy. I would say the Mark IV I like better, but I'm pretty happy with this camera.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
Good. I finished off my water here. All right, so that again is window light, and we're going to be talking more about it in a bit here. But I really want to emphasize, in a pinch, window light is the go-to. I would say it's probably one of the more popular of light sources when doing photography. It makes things, people look good. I know that's somewhat subjective, but again, I think we would all agree here, Mackenzie and Rachel, window light is definitely kind of a go-to in a lot of situations, right?
It's very flattering overall.
Very flattering, right? It's simple. It typically provides enough light to do the job as long as it's during daylight hours. I think one of the drawbacks maybe of window light is, say, like where you have a stormy day or you have clouds coming in and out and the light's changing, and that can play havoc. And again, I think Rachel did a good job in specifying that she likes to shoot in studio with lights that have predetermined power, so everything is constant. It's never changing unless she changes the power setting or what have you.
Yeah,
So,
because when you are shooting with window light, you do have to adjust. Like if a cloud goes over the sun or something else happens, as the light changes, you have to adjust your settings.
right. The other thing I want you to talk about real quick is reflectors, like in still life, and how, I don't know if you have one handy, I think you do, but a lot of times like you can use, and I'm gonna actually introduce a reflector, in the event you want to even soften it more. Could you show our viewers about how you would use a reflector in this situation with the jewelry?
Yeah, so I tested it with the window light because the shadows are so soft, the reflector doesn't make much of a difference. But if you were to use, I have like a silver reflector, which is more reflection, or a white card. And for this scenario, you'd use pretty small reflectors because you have small subject. But for the shop light, you would probably want to, if you wanted to diffuse these shadows right here, you could add a small reflector card on the shadow side of your subject so that you could get a little more fill.
Can you show the viewer how you would do that?
Yeah, sure.
Real quickly.
So if the light source is coming through the window like this, then you just hold your reflector on this side of your subject over here.
And that obviously that's going to fill in the shadows. Typically bigger is better when it comes to reflectors. You want to make sure that you have a sizable reflector. And anything, you know, if a reflector is not something that has to be photo grade, it doesn't have to say photo on it. Anything that's white, usually rigid is better, so it's not flopping around or what have you. We use what we use is called foam core, and foam core is something, again, that you can buy. You can buy obviously at say like a photo store, but I know even, you know, some of the hardware stores carry it, art stores carry it. I've even seen it like at Tap Plastics. It's a go-to in the photographic world. It's great for reflecting. It's rigid. You can stand it up. You can put a brick behind it and keep it upright as long as you're not outdoor a windy day. I can't say enough about foam core. Does it have to be foam core? It does not. Again, I've seen people use styrofoam. Styrofoam comes in white sheets. The problem with styrofoam, it's brittle. It breaks easy. But if you're in a very controlled environment, it's just as good in quality as foam core for, again, reflecting light. So how are we doing here, Hector? Any more questions coming through? I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, it's okay. Lots of questions actually too. And I know that daylight is precious right now. So I had somebody had a question about Capture One. Is Capture One something the Academy will be moving to instead of Lightroom?
Yeah, go ahead. You guys, I mean, I know that you played with Capture One, Rachel, haven't you?
Yes, I've also been photo assisting, and Capture One is pretty much the industry standard for tethered shooting. That's when you're shooting onto your computer directly, and it's really good for still life shooting. So if you're in an outdoor situation, you probably won't be using this kind of software, but for an indoor situation, when you really want to look at your files big on a monitor, it's great. And for file organization, I just feel like it has more features than Lightroom, so I prefer it personally.
Yeah.
And if you want to do more advanced editing, you would then move your images into Photoshop. But right. Capture One is really great, like for organizing images and editing them in batches.
Perfect. We had a question from Devion out there. He said, is lighting important when taking a picture of a painting or a pencil drawing?
Great question. That's a great question. Yes. So that's a little bit more involved. Typically, if I'm going to do something like that, that's more copy work. I'm using umbrellas. I'm crossing light. I'm making the light even. Yes, you could do it in theory with, say, window light or a light source. But if I'm understanding the question correctly, that is a little bit more involved. And again, to kind of specify, that's something where I would want to be in a controlled environment where the light's not changing. I have my umbrellas. I have them at a 45-degree angle. I can measure the light. I can make it even across the painting, or, you know, whatever one-dimensional piece of artwork that I have. So, you know, short answer, yeah, you really want to be careful when doing that. There are some good tutorials that I've seen on, say, like YouTube for that, you know, copying artwork, pretty legitimate stuff. But again, depending, like oil painting's really reflective. Sometimes you have to use, say, like a polarizing filter to kind of cut that down. You may even have to do a little bit of Photoshop for you know, a little bit of retouching and so forth. But again, yeah, that's actually a very good question. Any other questions there, Hector?
Yeah, somebody was asking me what lens were you using for this?
24 to 105 Canon lens.
All right.
And we're, you know, the beauty of the Academy is we are very, very complete thanks to our tech. We have a great tech in place right now, Edwin Vargas, who has really done an amazing job of providing the students with all these different lenses that I feel are, you know, not just your general lens, but like specialty lenses, tilt shift lenses, portrait lenses, macro photography lenses. Now it looks like we're going to be adding Sony into the system, mirrorless cameras. So, you know, the one we have phase. I could be wrong. I don't know many schools in the United States, even in the world, that offer the phase system. It's a very high-end camera, very expensive. We have great people who teach phase, such as Edwin, and I think it's a real privilege that the students have access to all this amazing equipment. It's funny because I always tell, you know, students that are interested in coming to the Academy, I say you can look around and research other schools, but as far as the facilities and what we have, and I'm sounding like I'm selling a used car. I'm not. I'm being very factual here. It's a very, very comprehensive program when it comes to equipment.
I would agree. I think it's been really helpful to have the hands-on experience too of actually using all this equipment.
The other thing is, you know, we offer the advanced digital capture, which is amazing. There are people that have gone on to be digital techs from this class. You're certified. Have either of you taken the advanced digital capture? Can you talk about it?
Yeah.
Mackenzie, why don't you add some, what was your experience with it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like phase one is one of those companies that I didn't even know existed until coming here. And I kind of just assumed industry standard was Canon or Nikon because that's what people talk about. But phase one is the industry standard, and Capture One goes hand in hand with that program. And ADC is such a great class because not only do you learn how to use, it's literally like a $50,000 camera, but you are learning it in a big group, and you have like, for me, I had a group of 4 other people. So we were constantly shooting together, and we were able to learn together and have Edwin like come to our shoots one-on-one and really teach us how to do it properly. And then at the end of the class, we actually got certified in phase one. So that's something that's really awesome too with the class, is that it's included when you actually take it, is to get that certification that lasts you 2 years, I believe.
Yeah, it's 2 years, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's something that I never even knew existed. And then now I'm certified and using the industry standard casually. And that's super cool. I definitely wouldn't be able to do that on my own. So
Yeah. No,
class.
I would agree. It's great that you said that, Mackenzie, because I feel like it's a really great comprehensive course, and students have gone on to be digital techs. I know a kid, Alexi, he's in San Francisco. he's not only a digital tech, he rents out his stations now. He's created this, he's turning away business, you know, he's making great money doing it. It's a really an amazing course to be able to take advantage of. And I thank my department really sincerely for putting that together. So I don't want to, not that we're limited on time, but Rachel, that was awesome what you did as far as just that basic explanation of the window light. And, you know, we're going to kind of further, but that leads me to talk, I want to talk with Mackenzie, and she also has some stuff that she wants to show. If I could have you unshare your screen there, Rachel, we're going to go to Mackenzie here. And Mackenzie's about, let's see, Mackenzie, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to graduate next semester. Is that safe to say? I think I can't hear you. Are you muted? I think you're muted, Mackenzie. There you are. There you are.
I will graduate next semester.
Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, now Mackenzie's not a still life shooter, or maybe you've done a little bit, but you're talk a little, well, we're going to talk more about your work, but talk about what you know, in a nutshell, what you do.
Yeah, so I do portraiture, and it's mainly fashion related, but a little more fine art into it. So it's kind of genre-less, but I would categorize it more as fashion.
Great, great. And I've had Mackenzie twice. I've had her in my fashion and beauty class, and I've had her in my advanced location lighting class. And I should have mentioned, I have Rachel currently in my advanced location lighting class. So, but Mackenzie, let's talk shooting people. So what kind of light do you look for? What's your go-to? Let's see what you have for us.
Yeah, I think I started off with window light, outdoor, open shade, very soft. I think that's my go-to for sure. And I think now that I work in studio a lot and work with artificial light, I try to replicate outdoor light and that shade and the window light kind of look. So yeah, I feel like that's the consistency in my style, is just very soft, even light, even if it's artificial or natural.
Right, right. Good, good. And I remember back in the day, it was a while ago, you know, I felt like you knew what you were looking for, but it wasn't really dialed or, you know, as focused. And now I feel like you have a very good control of what you want out of your lighting, and whether you're going to find it or create it or both. Right.
Right. I think that's something too, like that speaks on the program itself, is just every assignment you have the option to take with it what you want. And I think for me, I just kept shooting. So then it would kind of narrow down what I really wanted to kind of find my niche.
Good, good. I'm going to have you share some images, if that's cool.
Okay. Can we just go into the demo that I
Yeah,
have?
yeah, let's go right into it. I'm sure there'll be questions too.
Okay, can everyone see? Is this good?
Yeah, look, I can see.
Okay, so I just wanted to speak a little bit on artificial light and things that you can do from home with whatever type of light you have. These are all items that I currently have in my home that I'm working with to make some interesting portraits or just photos in general. So we're kind of like doing with what we have. And this is the light that I'm currently using to light myself. It's a lamp with diffusion on it. But I just wanted to show the differences and the types of lighting you could use in portraiture, still life, or anything that you shoot. So on the left, we have hard light, and that's just a light as it is, bare bulb, nothing really on it. And then in the middle, there's diffusion, and that's what we were talking about earlier with window light, adding that really soft, natural look. And you can use wax paper, tracing paper, a white sheet, literally anything to diffuse it. And then on the right, I have focus light. And that's something to where you can just kind of determine where you want your light to go. You can cover up the light. It just makes it very narrow and intentional. And then I did a little demo with a friend to just kind of show on a portrait what these different types of lights looks like. And I used a B1, I have it behind me. And it's essentially like a grown-up light lamp. It's what we use in studio or on location. It's pro photo. But essentially, I just have on the left natural light. This is what she looked like on camera during the shoot with no artificial lighting. And then I added in the hard diffuse and focused. And it's kind of hard to tell from here, but I just wanted to show you can,
No, I
see the
think it's a good, I think it's actually, to me, like, I feel, you know, how you have the natural light, and again, it's more flat. There's not as much dimension. Obviously, the hard light, you really see it's, you know, you see a little bit more dimension, but you start to maybe lose areas like camera left eye or her right eye. The diffuse feels like it's more of a natural. It opens up the eyes. You know, it gives it more kind of this life, if you would. And then the focus light, I feel like now you're really featuring obviously the eyes, the intensity. So I think you can't really say which is better. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mackenzie. It's what you're trying to do narratively with the photograph. Is that safe to say for you?
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like, I wanted to show the difference because it's always nice to try everything. And I think that's something we learned in your location lighting class is like, bring everything, try everything. And then once you do it, you can see what works best for you later and then keep shooting with that. But just, there's no point in just like sticking with one thing because you never know, you might prefer how something looks with hard light over diffused. But yeah, so I just wanted to focus in on like how you can really see the details in her eye. That catch light is really strong in her eye. And it's almost split down the middle of her face, how bright it is on one side, and then there's almost no light on the other. And like John said, it's not good or bad, it's totally preference. And then this is diffused. And it's a little similar, but you can just see how that line is so much more soft, and the light kind of flows naturally over her face, so it covers a majority of it, I would say. And then on the left too, I just included pictures source. It looks really funky. It's very DIY, but it gets the job done. And yeah, there's no like right or wrong when it comes to lighting, and you don't have to have the best equipment and a name brand. You can literally throw it on your lamp and it does the same thing. Not necessarily the same thing, but very similar idea.
I'm glad you brought that up. So at the Academy, we have a lot of what we have strobes. Strobes provide a lot of things. They provide a lot of power. They're very controlled units, meaning you can, go extremely low power, you can go to an extremely high power. It allows you to do a lot of things. We have modifiers that attach to the strobes. They're portable. This is a portable unit. This is, I won't say you can carry it in your back pocket, but you could probably carry it in a backpack. It's that's the beauty of, not only do we have these great cameras, but we've got all this different paraphernalia that deals with lighting. And whether you want something super powerful that you're going to use indoors, or something that's more mobile, you're going to the beach, you're going downtown, we call it guerrilla style shooting, where you're wandering through the city and hopefully you have a permit, but we won't get into that. You're basically you're ready to go. You're locked in, ready to go with all the different types of lighting that we have. Hector, I'm sure there's probably a couple questions, or maybe more than a couple. I don't want to. I need to shut up.
No, the questions rain in always, but I think that we tend to address them as we keep going.
Okay.
So what are some affordable options for strobe lights?
And that's a great question too. I think affordable and something where it's not going to drain your pocketbook would probably be like the Alien B. I think Godox is another one that seems to be pretty popular. these are kind of copycat brands of the higher end units. Like for example, Rachel right now is looking for a Braun color system. Braun is probably one of the more expensive systems out there. It's their packs are expensive, their heads are expensive, their cases are expensive. Anything that says Braun on it is typically very, very pricey. Now the question is, okay, am I going to get a better photograph using Braun as opposed to say like Godox? I think it really depends on the application. And I'll use an example, and maybe it's not the best example, but if you're shooting, say, for like a catalog company and you need consistency and the Kelvin temperature and then the output of the power has to be exactly the same every single shot. Like I say, exact meaning perfectly the same, then I would say you probably need a high-end unit. But if you're shooting, say, portraiture, you're a serious hobbyist, not even a serious hobbyist, like even somebody who shoots on a professional level where there's a little bit of variation between the two, a Godox would probably do fine. There's so many different options out there. I am going to talk about a light stick that I think is relatively affordable. It's continuous light. I'll introduce that a little bit later, but I want to continue. Mackenzie, I always do this. I interrupted. You're doing great here. And I'm sure you have your go-tos, but I think you demonstrated very well, you know, the diffuse versus the harder light. And again, it's not to say that one is better than the other, but one might be more appropriate given this what you're trying to do.
Right. And then I just had one more of the focus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this one, I feel like I kind of gave you pushback, John, in class. Like, I don't think I really was interested in this just because I was like, oh, I like soft light.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I do have to say, like, it's really, if you're intentional and if you have a reason for it, it's really great to use. And I use cinefoil, and it's this really cool, I think a lot of like filmmakers use it too, but it's really interesting because you can just mold it and it shapes to your light. But you can, like we said earlier, you can use like a t-shirt or anything that will block that light, and just open up a little bit of space to allow you to really have control of where your light goes. Because I think, especially with diffusion, your light's just kind of opening up and wrapping around. And this is the complete opposite. You just want to like drill it in somewhere. And for me, I've always used that with the eyes because I feel like the eyes are the most important thing in my portraits, and what I want to focus on the most. And so that's what I showed in this demo here. And I put on the right side, just again, that natural photo so you can compare the two, and just really see how the light kind of falls on the eye. And like I said earlier, it's totally preference, but it's something really cool that I didn't know was even an option until taking the location lighting class. I think it's a good tool to have.
No, that's a great. The one thing that you brought up, cinefoil. Cinefoil is like thick tin foil that's matte black. So you can make modifiers, you can block light. There's all these different things. I mean, for photographers, I think cinefoil and gaffer's tape, I feel like if I have my cinefoil, my gaffer's tape, and a basic light, I can almost cure cancer. Almost. Right? It's just, it's one of the, it's something that is a big part of the tool bag. And it's reused, like cinefoil is reusable. Hold that up again, Mackenzie. It's something that folds. It's glorified tinfoil. It's thicker, you know, not microwave friendly, but it is awesome for using to, again, shape, block, shield, like it's, again, you know, I can't say enough about it. So, and it's, you know, it's not cheap, but then again, I think, Mackenzie, you've probably had that piece forever. It's something that lasts forever. You can fold it. You can almost put it in your back pocket. Right?
Yeah, really. And also, I think it's nice to just have something that you know is safe to use with lights, because I'm very much a DIY person, but that doesn't necessarily mean safety. So especially when you're working with lights and strobes, you just want to make sure you're not causing a fire hazard.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
Yeah, so I also wanted to show a couple tricks that I do in camera just to kind of spice the portraits up a little bit. And I'm sure people have heard this before, but it's just a technique that I still use and I really like using. So the first one is adding something on top of your lens to create a really nice blur effect. And I did make the mistake my freshman year of putting it directly onto the lens. And that's such a huge mistake because it could actually damage your lens. Thankfully, mine was fine. But I just put, what is this called? Cling wrap?
Cellophane.
Yeah.
Cellophane.
I just put it over my lens and then put a hair tie around it to keep it onto the lens. And then I took chapstick and just put it around the edge. And for me, I found that it's helpful to go kind of in a circular motion and it's around the edge so you can still get a crisp photo and you're not losing that sharpness. And then for fun, I added some highlight because it has a little more of a shine. Any glitter or eyeshadow or anything like that is great too. But I just think this is really fun to do. And you can see even more so on the far right image, it makes almost like a circular border around the photo. And to me, I think it just feels very angelic and light and airy. And I think it's really fun to take something from like, it's a nice portrait, but then it has a little more character and a little more spice to it. So,
Yeah, and just to reiterate, again, you do not want to put this, you know, say like when you see it here, Vaseline, any sort of product should not go directly on the lens. What Mackenzie did here was wrap her lens with the cellophane and then apply, say, glitter or what have you. You really want to keep your lens pretty spotless. It's so funny because I teach beginning courses in the summer. I teach the art experience, and I'm always going around and looking at people's lenses, and I cannot get over how many people do not start with a clean lens. And that is, if you want to kill resolution of any lens, that is the best way to do it, is to have a dirty lens. They make cleaning kits. You do not clean with your shirt. Buy actual lens cleaning tissue. They have some that come with droplets. Do not put the droplets directly on the glass. Put them on the cleaning tissue. I don't like the reusable cloths. A lot of people have the reusable ones because I feel like you clean the lenses and the dirt remains on the cloth. I always like, the ones that one-time use only. You use it, you toss it. So this way you start out with a brand new clean cloth to clean your lens. So anyway.
So this is my other one. This one's a little funny. I feel like I get a lot of looks when I shoot with things like this, but I actually shot through my water bottle for these two photos. And I have gotten the most success doing this with like plastic bags, literally anything lying around. I feel like I've just kind of put in front of my lens. And I have my camera to show it too, but let's just use this as an example. But I literally just put it in front, almost touching it, and it just has a nice little border effect. And I feel like doing things that are transparent adds more dimension to the photo rather than putting something in that's just going to add a block or kind of snub that part of the photo off. So it's a little silly and weird, but it's also something that's kind of fun and creative. I've seen people do CDs where they put the CD on the edge and it has a cool rainbow effect. Like I said, I like plastic bags a lot because it also has a reflective element to it. And I actually have an example later on. But yeah, those are some of my tips and tricks that I use. I feel like those are pretty standard. I feel like a lot of people do them, but I think knowing how to do them and then applying them into your own style is really what's helpful.
I'd agree with that statement. Yeah, absolutely. And I think both of you have demonstrated, the staples that you use, elements, things to kind of, it's, and I would say this about both of you. I could be walking down the street and see your image hanging from either of you and know that they're yours just simply based on elements, the shooting style, your photographic personality comes out through your prints. And it's really fun to explore in the beginning. We'll maybe talk about this later. We encourage people to explore the different types of things that you can do to kind of help refine your style. I mean, we call it the funnel effect. You start wide, but as you continue through the course of the academy, you take on that specialty to kind of create your own look, your own photographic signature. I think that's hugely important to say with what we do. So anyway, that was great. That was great from both of you. I have something that I want to show. I have to get up here and grab it really quick. It's right by me. But I think a very important item, and I got to bring this back because it's kind of big, is a reflector. This is a 5-in-1 reflector. And I would say this is something that every photographer, and I'm not saying professional, they're cheap, they reflect light, they have different colors. This has 5 different colors. It basically kind of unzips and you can go to, say black, you have diffusion. They're very simple to use. I will say there's a right way of using it and a wrong way. So basically you can see my face, right? How it kind of brightens up. Here I'm adjacent to a window and I put it away and my face darkens. So the trick is you're grabbing the light source. In this case, it's the window. It hits here and it bounces back. Kind of a cool thing. The biggest mistake I see is people holding it underneath their subject. And then the light is coming from below. Unless you want like we call it monster lighting, where light is coming from below, and typically people don't want that. You always want the center of your reflector, not just a 5-in-1. The center of your reflector should be eye level or higher than your subject. It kind of contours the face in a better way. It really does. The nice thing about this, and this is the most difficult thing about this reflector, believe it or not, is folding it up. I'd say that takes the most time to learn how to use a reflector, is to put it away. They're nice, they're compact. I think everybody needs one of these. I sent Hector where the brand of this. You can find them on Amazon. This particular one is called the Westcott 5-in-1. It's kind of a little bit more, I won't say high end, but probably a little bit more expensive than some of the others. I've seen them as low as like maybe $16, $18, all the way up to maybe like $50, $60. Also depends on the size. This is a medium size. They make bigger, they make smaller. They're awesome. They're awesome to have. They're great. Like, a lot of people are afraid to shoot in the middle of the day because of the deep shadows in the eyes. With this, you can actually reflect light into somebody's face and create, that luminosity. You can see things start to open up, and they darken once you don't have that reflected light. Another thing that I really love, and I have to kind of have using it right now on my computer, I'm going to actually take this down, is my LED light. And these are great. These LED lights have been awesome. I'm going to step back, but I can control this with my phone. I can change the color of it. I have to open my phone here. Hold on. Let me get to that. Okay, so I can create brighter, I can make different colors, I can go, add red, I can take away. You can see I can do whatever I want with these LEDs. Warm, cold, strong and powerful, or very weak. They make one, I love it. It's not cheap, but definitely not over the top crazy expensive. Godox makes the LC500. For the money, I would say that's probably not a bad way to go. My favorite one of the continuous light sources is probably the Ice Light. And that's a Westcott brand, a little bit more expensive, definitely a little bit more expensive than, say, I'm gonna adjust my computer here, I'm sorry. More expensive than the Godox. But the nice thing, when I started teaching at the academy, all this equipment, reflectors, we didn't even have continuous lights to work with in this nature where we could change color or adjust Kelvin. And when it initially came out, it was god-awful expensive. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars. Whereas I feel now, things are so much more affordable. I don't have any information on it. I'm sure if you Google it, because one of my colleagues, Michael Sims, and I'm not just saying this, is an amazing instructor. The guy just, I one day want to hear him say, I don't know, because I feel like he's one of those people that just knows everything when it comes to photography and equipment. He showed me a light that actually syncs up to your phone, but it's a strobe. It's not continuous. And I believe it was made by Pro Photo. Not cheap, but wow, was I impressed. And I'm assuming it's pretty brand new, because there's nothing wrong with doing a lot of your great imagery with the smartphone. In fact, we have a course now shot on mobile. Mackenzie, I think, are you in that course, or I thought, okay. Shot on mobile is strictly shooting with a smartphone. And the equipment, the accessories, and the imagery that comes out of that class is amazing. Now, to the old school Puritan photographer, that might just sound sinful. Like, oh my God, doing photography on a smartphone, how dare you? But with technology, with the quality and how it's constantly elevating, I think it's here to stay. It's been here to stay. And I love seeing these accessories that enable you to take it further. Michael has done an amazing job in our department of exploring that, understanding it, and conveying this information to the students. So, Hector, any more questions thus far?
There's been a lot of questions about the reflectors and things, but I think Mackenzie might have got to that. It was more about like the size of things.
Okay.
And then people just making some comments about, just cell phone photography in general. Does anybody have a specific question they want to post real quick? I can hang back for 1 second and feed some. All right, so here's some questions. Things like, does the school help provide equipment for online students?
Yeah, unfortunately not. The online is something where you'd have to have your own equipment. You're basically told what you need at the beginning of the course. Obviously, with the course outline and what have you, it's very stipulative of as far as what you need. Now, that said, we have both online, we have on-site, and we have what we call hybrid students. So hybrid students do some courses online, maybe where they don't need equipment, and is when they feel like they could benefit from using the school's equipment, then they do the on-site. But again, very good question. All these great questions. Yeah, that's something where you would have to provide yourself with the equipment. But that said, buying equipment that's efficient, you're not going to kill your pocketbook, that's going to allow you to get the most out of the course based on what you have as far as in your tool bag.
Yeah, and also too, just for the students out there, I'd like to make sure that they understand that every student is also provided the Adobe Creative Cloud. So that's actually a part of your enrollment, whether you're on site or
online or on CS.
Yeah, once you go into your portal as a student, every semester we have an area that says software keys, and that's what provides you with the code to go ahead and download that software to use while you're in your classes. So every student has that as to their access.
All right.
Someone keeps asking questions about watches, and so maybe we can speak to that too. How to photograph highly reflective objects, things like watches, wine bottles, etc.
Let's go to the expert, Rachel.
Okay, so for that kind of thing, you really want a diffused light source for that, because a hard light, you're just gonna get like tiny little specular highlights on your bottle, and it's not gonna, if you're shooting like a wine bottle or something, it's not gonna really accentuate the bottle well. But if you have a diffused light source, like like how Mackenzie was talking about, if you put something in front of your light, like a tracing paper or something else to really cut it down, and so you don't have that really hard point of light. And that's great for watches too, so that you don't have just a focus of light on one part of the object, and it's really spread throughout.
To that, I also would like to add, typically when, and I'm not a still life person, my concentration has always been more on people and say fashion people, portraiture, things like that. But typically when you're doing objects, say like glass or metal, a bigger light source is better. So like a softbox is very commonly used with say photographing, say a watch. What's a softbox? A softbox, it looks like a tent, right, with a piece of diffusion in front of it. It's very common in the photographic world, something that we have. I don't even want to know, I wouldn't even be able to guess how many we have at the Academy. And not only do we have softboxes, all these different sizes from small to ginormous, right? Where you could almost light an elephant with one of them. It's something that would provide, I guess, an elongated highlight. It's smooth, it's soft, it's something very, very much a go-to when doing, say, that kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, Hector, before we move on?
How do you control lighting when doing outside portraits?
Mackenzie, you want to take that on?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends. I think it's very situational. Let's say midday, for example. You kind of have to know what you're going for. I tend to, when I'm doing like senior photos or family photos, things that are usually like happy, we want it to be, let's say, like frame it on the wall. You want to accentuate people's faces. You want to accentuate how they look. You don't want harsh shadows. So what I like to do is, you can tell it's 8 o'clock, people are clapping, sorry. But what I like to do with outdoor to control is definitely use a reflector. I always enlist my boyfriend or his mom or my mom or whoever's around to hold it. I tend to use a medium-sized one. I mentioned in the chat, especially with people, because you want to do full body or close up, but reflectors is huge. I also tend to go to open shade rather than being directly in the sun. And that's essentially just finding shade, and it's not too terribly harsh and doesn't give you so many shadows, but you can still kind of reflect the light, and you're not getting like really harsh light on the hair, or they're blinded and they have no shadows. So just kind of a trick that I learned my freshman year from my teacher was saying, hold your hand up. And if you can see, like, since my light source is on the side, I can see shadows, but then when I turn it here, it's very soft and even. So simple things like that, just using your hand to kind of guide you to understand what you're seeing, and also just shoot around. You can always keep it moving, especially when you're outside. I always joke around with my subjects and I'm like, one more shot. And then we do 20 more and I'm like, okay, one more shot. And we just keep going, bouncing around. So it's super helpful just to kind of go in knowing what you're looking for and then kind of troubleshooting through it.
With that said, and I want you to continue, can we go to your work? And I have some questions for you too.
Do you want me to do mood boards or my website?
Start with your website and we'll go to mood boards after. That'd be
Okay.
great. You can share your screen.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to kind of give our viewers some insight of, why the Academy and why do you photograph this style of work? How did this evolve? Tell us.
Yeah, so all the work that's currently on my website is from the past year or maybe two. When I first started, like John said, it's kind of like a funnel. I started shooting anything and everything. And I did a lot of still life stuff in my dorm room, random sidewalk shoots with my friends. And it wasn't until I really got my niche and knew what I wanted to do that I started kind of practicing. And I think something that's really big in our department is just keep shooting and constantly shoot and practice until you kind of find your niche. So yeah, I started doing portraits probably my sophomore year, I would say, once I took portrait photography with Eric. And yeah, I realized that's what I like to do. I like to make it a little different. I don't really like the cookie cutter. I didn't want to be too serious and take myself too seriously. So I tried to have fun with it along the way. And then this second photo with the pink backdrop was actually taken my sophomore year when I was doing a shoot with gloves from 7-Eleven, super random. I thought that was cool. But then I found this photo and I was like, oh, this is really elegant. I like this. This is kind of the path I want to go towards. So yeah, since then I've just tried to shoot with portraits, keeping the minimal idea, also fashion and commercial, but just having fun with it and doing those techniques, like I was saying. And this first image, this is one of my most recent ones, and actually in spring show that I just found out. But I literally put plastic in front of the lens to make that effect, and it's film. Yeah, and I can scroll through. So it's kind of in and out between fine art and fashion. I really want to have fun with the pearls and collaborating with makeup artists to create some interesting looks. And I feel like my teachers kind of hate me for it, but I like really weird crops and making things a little unconventional like these two. That's a huge no-no usually with portraits, is to crop right out the chin and kind of take things off. But for me, I found when I do it intentionally and I have a reason behind it, it works. And yeah, for John's fashion and beauty class, we had to make a magazine, and these two were together in the magazine. And I just really like how they play on my website as well, and shows fashion, but it's a little different. It's not the usual.
The other thing I want to talk about, and I think you did a great job, is you collaborated with the styling department, and that's something that's really unique about our school, is that she was able to venture out, work with people in the styling department that had access to clothes, had access to accessories. It's something that we're very big on promoting. It's not just about us, meaning photographers. We are working with other departments with these different, there's so many different departments at the Academy. In this particular case, especially Mackenzie's case, the styling department, they have access to clothes. They're doing assignments where they're utilizing Mackenzie's work and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I know you hit that pretty early on in the game. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I think so. I was really hungry to start doing reel shoots, and I was using my friends and styling everything myself. And then as soon as I worked with a stylist, it was so much easier, but also they had such a refined taste and they knew what they were doing. Whereas I kind of had an idea, I just didn't know how to execute it. And just like photography majors, same with them. So I think it's really important to collaborate because you're getting the best of both worlds. You're working together, you're both getting portfolio work, but also they know what they're doing, you know what you're doing, and you get good work from it. Like this shoot, this was not my concept. This was a stylist, and I never knew I would love it this much and like want it to be in my portfolio. I just was doing a shoot for fun and practice,
Mackenzie, just so the viewer knows, like go back. What lighting did you use here? What, or the one before? What's your go-to?
My go-to is usually two soft boxes, kind of in the front angled. I love big diffuse light. And I think I try to keep it a little further back. It kind of softens it. And I really just don't like to have harsh shadows.
Right.
I also tend to put a light on the background itself to really blow it out. And this is a great example of that. Just to keep it like stark white. There's not that much of a gradient. But for me, lighting is very intentional and important to my work because it is so minimal that every little thing in the photo matters. Yeah, so this one it's definitely stark white. For this one, it was similar, but we had the light source kind of coming up higher at a direction, and you can tell that the light kind of fell off in the background because it's more gray.
Right.
But to me, the background wasn't as important and didn't need to be that stark white. The story is in her face for sure.
And again, you also work with models.
Mm-hmm.
Mackenzie's got a great reputation with the modeling agencies in San Francisco. So not only is she able to utilize and collaborate with people within within the Academy, but has developed a relationship with talent agencies in San Francisco so that she can grab the right talent. It's a production, and that's what we do is we teach the students how to put lighting is one of the many elements that is going to make a photo shoot. And we try to have, I guess, a very resourceful, plentiful, I guess, if she needs something more technical, she can go to the right instructor. She needs the right model, she can find the right agency. She needs the right prop, accessory, location. That's the other thing. I mean, San Francisco as a backdrop, the beauty of San Francisco is if she wants to be in a very urban environment, she's got it. But she can drive an hour and be in the middle of nowhere, right? Where it would never even seem like you're close to a city. And I think that's what's so unique about the Bay Area, and the weather is relatively cooperative throughout the year. I mean, yeah, we get a little bit of rain here and there for sure in the winter, but not like other places. Like it's safe to say you can almost shoot throughout the year in the Bay Area. It doesn't get that cold, which is great. So this is great, Mackenzie. I mean, a lot of this obviously I've seen, but some of it I haven't. But I just feel like you have a really good control on your skill set, particularly lighting. And again, you're picking the right talent to really support what you're doing. It's great. It's great work.
Scrolling through here. These were also from your fashion.
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah.
Someone said, how was the first picture on the screen done? as well as a ton of compliments like stunning, so nice, beautiful, etc.
Thank you. What did you say about the first picture?
Someone said, how was the first picture on the screen done?
This one is this, I'm assuming it's this one. I did this in studio with film. This was actually, I'm taking a film class right now for black and white photography, but I wanted to shoot color myself. And my teacher blew my mind because he was like, yeah, you have a hot shoe. You can shoot film in studio with the strobes, with all the professional modern equipment. And I don't know why that just didn't comprehend to me. So I tested it out with this shoot, and it was same 2 soft boxes and 1 hot light just on the back of the seamless, white seamless. And I used I believe Kodak film, ISO 400, don't know the particular brand. But yeah, I just had my strobes synced to the film camera and got this. And then I, like I was saying earlier, I just put a piece of plastic in front of the lens and used the viewfinder just to gauge where it was. And I also think that's kind of something you have to practice too, so you know that you're not going to block your whole subject. But yeah, you kind of move it around, you can gauge, you can see it. It definitely helps to do it in a light setting. I know some people were talking about doing night photography. You definitely want to be able to see, how you're working with your shot. But yeah, that's basically it.
There's some comments that I'm reading and I'm getting, so we still are doing film at the Academy. We have dark rooms, we have alternative processes. Have either of you taken the alternatives class, Mackenzie or Rachel?
Darkroom was my first film class.
Okay, and Rachel, have you taken?
I haven't taken any, no.
Okay.
It's all digital.
It's something we offer. Years ago, I used to teach the black and white film, but we have Connie Begg who does the alternative processes. And Connie is one of the, I mean, there's not many people that do what Connie Begg does. It's pretty amazing. You know, if you're one of those people that really wants to explore these old, very nostalgic applications where you're using film and light sensitive materials and what have you, we're one of the few schools that still offers that, which I think is amazing. And I'm a huge advocate of it. I think it's something, you know, don't get me wrong, I love digital, I love all the new technology, but I love when it's kind of this hybrid application where you take kind of some old school stuff, new school stuff, and you bring them together. Mm-hmm. You know, it's pretty amazing to see that, and our department still has that. We still offer that. Mm-hmm. That's, you know, again, Mackenzie, it for me as an instructor, and to see Mackenzie where she was at not long ago and to see where she's at right now, it's super gratifying to see the progress and what she's done, and, you know, super happy for her. And, you know, she's, you know, you guys, I mean, we provide, we're there, but the work is still to be done by the student. It's hard work. I think both of these girls will tell you that this isn't something that just falls into your lap. Anyway, Rachel, I want to talk about your work, which is, you know, much different. And it's still life, but talk about your journey at the Academy of Art University Photo Department.
Sure. So I'll start sharing my screen. I came to the Academy in 2015, and my work, like Mackenzie said, it definitely has come a long way. Like, you learn so much and you develop your own style over time. So I definitely didn't start in the place that I am now, and I really refined my style over time and found that I love to shoot still life, and I loved the ability to create a photograph instead of just capturing it. And still life really lends itself to that, because you can organize everything within your frame and you can make sure that you have full control over the environment, which I really love about it. I do like really organized compositions, kind of like scientific in a way. And I love to shoot flat lays, which is like top down. Your camera is kind of like how I have it behind me. And I love I've been working with food stylists lately, which has been really fun, but also I love styling my own work as well.
Yeah, and you're actually very good at it, I might add. Because a lot of still life photographers really put they lean hard on their stylist who are going to help them kind of lay out. And I think, Rachel, you've done an excellent job of styling your photo shoots. I feel like you're not intimidated by it at all.
Thank you. I'm not.
Yeah, it's awesome. Talk about play with your food. How did this come about?
So this really stemmed from experimentation and just like trying to see how I could transform food items and really make them into something kind of non-traditional, because a lot of food photography is really like how you would eat it. And I wanted to branch off of that and create something more to where it's like a really graphic and fun approach that I would really be making something and sculpting something out of the food.
Yeah, you have some pretty rad stuff here.
Thank you. Yeah.
So unfortunately, I kind of knew you, seeing you around here and there prior to having you in class, but basically, I was formally introduced to her at the beginning of this semester, and she shoots still life. But surprisingly enough, and I have to say this, in my advanced location lighting class, we do, I rent locations all throughout San Francisco, both indoor, outdoor, and I actually got a permit to shoot at Treasure Island, which is an island in the Bay, in the Bay Area. And she actually shot an individual. You don't have the shot handy by chance, do you?
I don't have it on my
Yeah,
website.
no worries. But what's cool is that she entered it into our spring show and it actually got in. And the only reason why I find it kind of funny is it's not something that she typically does. She's a still life shooter. She shoots product. You can see on your screen here what she does. But it just shows that, she's a hard worker. She's not intimidated. She's really willing to kind of play it out and take a chance and go for these, conceptual, impactful images. How are these now? What's your go-to lighting on this for a lot of these photographs? What is kind of the tool that you use?
I use a lot of bounce light for fill in a lot of my images, or I'll bounce it off a wall and have kind of a diffused effect, but it really depends on the subject matter. So with still life, it's really kind of finicky, and you have to really look at your subject matter and see what lighting would be best for it and would be most flattering. So some have a little bit more of a hard effect, like these have pretty harsh shadows. Because I wanted a more graphic effect, but it really varies.
How do you pick your backgrounds, and what are your backgrounds? Let me ask that.
My backgrounds, most of these were composited in Photoshop to get the right color tones and to make sure everything was really consistent and there's no gradients based on the lighting that I was doing. Because if you wanted really hard shadows like this, you'd have to have kind of a gradient across, and I didn't want that, so I cut them out and pasted them in Photoshop.
Got you. I really, love your color selection. I mean, I feel like it's just a wide variety, and I think it's a great start. The play with your food it really just kind of transitions very well. Hector, how are we doing with the questions? I'm sure people have some stuff that they want to ask these two talented individuals.
All right. Anybody have any specific questions here you want to shoot? I think some of these were addressed about, is it a backdrop? Are we editing background color? How was the strawberry one executed?
So the strawberry one, I used like fishing line, and I balanced all of the pieces on the fishing line, and in post I took out the fishing line. So it really was piecing everything together. The tripod that I use is a Manfrotto tripod. Someone asked that.
Yeah, good.
You know, one thing I would ask maybe any of you, if you feel free like taking this question, but you know, working with students all over the planet, I tend to find that when it comes to photography, this major more than any other major, you tend to have this, you know, this misconception of what that gap is between an amateur and a professional photographer. And maybe you guys can speak to that, because I feel like in the generation we live in now, everybody has a cell phone, everybody takes pictures.
Yeah.
It's pretty common. So what is that gap? Like, why do you go to school for this? Why is it worth it to get that background education? And how does that help you to become a professional? What is that gap?
I think that, and I'm going to jump in. I'm sure, you know, they're going to have some great commentary on this as well. But I start off all my classes with a saying that I learned a long time ago. And I think it's a great saying, that the difference between professional photography and say amateur, or, you know, like a hobbyist, or, you know, not professional photography, are the details. And I know that's really kind of broad, but really it's about the small things, the specifics. Style, I think, is huge. So yeah, you're right, Hector. You put it like, who doesn't have a smartphone that takes pictures? You know, an Instagram account. Everybody's posting, right? But the thing is this, is that it's really cool. And like, I can say that about both of these individuals, is that if I see their photographs just randomly, there's no name, you know, just I run in, I'm flipping through a magazine, I'm downtown, and I see it in a window, being that they've kind of taken on, they play with a certain color palette, types of light, the type of objects that they photograph. In Mackenzie's case, like even makeup. Mackenzie talked about awkward cropping. Those are things that we really, really play off of, and we kind of refine and make it where, no, not anybody can do that. This takes time. There's a process, and it's something that has a signature, and we make you marketable. Like, oh my God, I have to work with that girl that does play your food. You know, like I'll go to the example of the, you know, if you don't live in the Bay Area, maybe you don't understand it as well. But like for those of us who live in the Bay Area, you know, the BART, I'll let you explain, Rachel. Explain, how did you come up with the BART map? What was the inspiration?
Well, I used to commute on BART every week before classes moved online. And I would look at that map like every day. And I thought it was a cool design, but I wanted to kind of make something out of it and play on this idea of playing with my food and really transforming it. So I was in the grocery store and I saw rainbow Twizzlers, and they have the same exact colors as the BART map. So I really wanted to play with that and see what I could do with it.
And that's awesome that you took all these elements that you're very, very close to, and you know, created a piece of art. I mean, it's personal. Not that we would really necessarily know it, but it's kind of like, people always say, well, how do you develop a style? Well, how about take what's in front of you? Okay, this girl rides BART. Maybe you're addicted to Twizzlers. I don't know, but right. But it's something that you played. You played it, and I think you played it pretty well. I really do.
Thank you.
Mackenzie, I'm going to go to you. So, you know, based off of the question, what is the difference between, say, where you were years ago as an amateur, and obviously you're going into the world of, you know, being a professional? How does that happen? How do you feel that, you know, that process takes place?
Yeah, I think I started just because I was interested, and I found my grandpa's film camera. I was like, oh, this is fun, this is cool. And then as I grew up and started doing more, I thought I was like the professional portrait photographer in high school. I was like, I can totally control this camera and I know what I'm doing. But I think once I realized that I don't, and there's so much more that I don't know, I wanted to know more. because for me, I had a visualization of what I wanted to shoot, but I felt like I just couldn't do it. And I used this analogy in high school, but it's like, I feel like I'm working with Play-Doh when I want to be working with the ceramics to make this fine art sculpture, and I can't do that with Play-Doh. So I felt like I just didn't have the knowledge, practice, understanding of photography itself
Right.
to apply it to them, because I knew like I want to work in commercial, I want to work for Sephora or Vogue, or those are just high-end companies that I personally had an attachment to, that I felt like I can't do that with the small knowledge that I have. So it's kind of, you don't know what you don't know until you get into school, and you're able to take those things, apply them, and practice, practice, practice. And I think that is really what sets it apart. Just understanding photography is an art, and it can be used for certain things, and seeing the details and being meticulous like Rachel, and like knowing exactly, having that control versus snapping a photo with your phone. And I'm a huge Instagram person. I love Instagram. I think it's super fun, but I think there's a difference in having fun with your images and then being professional and intentional with them.
And being able to be hired
Right.
for campaigns, whether it's food, whether it's fashion, whatever it may be. I think that's what, how we differentiate ourselves.
Right. And there's got to be education behind it too. Like, nobody from Vogue is going to call me up, high school me up, and be like, hey, you want a job? You don't know anything, but
Right.
Yeah. Hey, another question for you all too. So obviously, the school's been teaching courses online for 18 years and counting. And then what we're doing is, obviously, we were able to transition to help everybody to continue their education during shelter in place, which was a huge blessing for our school to be in that position.
Yeah.
My question is this: I talk to students constantly, especially students that are international, and I know that there's students from China on right now, where culturally online courses are not really the norm there. What I wanted to bring up was how hands-on, let me back up. When you ask a student why they don't want to take a course online, they tend to say that they're a hands-on learner. And there's a lot of fear that your lessons are not hands-on, what you're doing is not hands-on, and you're not getting the interaction from your teachers when you're taking courses online. Can you guys maybe speak to what that experience is like from your perspective of how do you work hands-on in that type of setting? How much feedback do you get from an instructor? How much interaction is there really?
Well, I've been a hybrid student for all my years at the Academy, so I really have been familiar with their online program for a long time. And I think it's great to have that flexibility overall. Mostly, I wanted to cater my classes, my photography classes, to be on campus, so I could really get that hands-on experience, especially in lighting classes, so you can see what's going on and you can see that lighting and have more access to your teachers in some ways. But with shelter in place and moving online, it really depends on like what you put into the class now. And you still have the opportunity to be hands-on, and we still have access to equipment now for on-site students that have shifted online. But you really have to be willing to experiment for yourself and really push yourself because you don't have that in-class interaction that you normally would.
Mackenzie, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think to piggyback, it's you get out of it what you put into it. And I think I've also been hybrid for a little bit, but mainly on site. But even with I'm doing like a portfolio development class, which is one of the senior classes, and that has always been online this whole semester, but I've been producing a majority of my work on site for that. And I think even if I were to not be on campus, I would be doing it anyways. It's just kind of doing it with what you have and what you can get from home, but also just being willing to put in the work and know that you have to keep up with it. You can't just sign on and attain the knowledge. Like you learn through practice, essentially.
Yeah. For me, it's been, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I've never been an online teacher, and obviously I went to, Zoom, and It was challenging, but you know, the one thing I was so impressed, and I feel like the academy, my department in particular, kind of set me up to be successful, was immediately providing the students with all the equipment to be hands-on. So now I'm in Zoom. I'm able to work with the students with their equipment. I've even, you know, have done individual meetings. They're shooting shelter in place. I mean, Rachel and I, we shoot every week together. She's doing her assignments. I'm able to give her the feedback. Now, if you told me this is how it was going to be months ago and said, I would have said no way. But my department, I believe, really made it the transition pretty easy. I mean, maybe easy is not the right word, but you know, I'm very pleased and kind of grateful that what my department has done for me to help facilitate that and still create a learning. I mean, some of the images that you saw from Rachel were done in shelter in place, right? Where she doesn't have access to a lot of things. She made it happen. It's not because of me. It's because of her. She, you know,
Yeah.
so it's pretty amazing that
Yeah.
you were able to do that.
You as instructor are really like accessible too. And that's a great thing about your class is that we always know as students that we can come to you with questions and there's no like miscommunication ever. It's always really fluid.
Yeah, it's been, like I said, it's gonna make me look at teaching in the future. God willing, we go back to I don't know the word normal. There's no normal anymore, but what we had, it's gonna make me teach in a little bit of a different way based on what I'm learning with Zoom and teaching in this manner. It's really kind of opened my eyes. And as much as I was scared to death when I was told, oh, you're going to be teaching in a Zoom room, I was like, Zoom, what is Zoom? You know, sounded like my worst nightmare. But it hasn't been bad at all. It's actually, it's in some ways I feel like I've really gotten to understand and really be in touch with what the students doing with their projects. So.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, Hector?
Let me keep looking for some. I mean, we continue to pretty much answer everything along the way, which looks really good. So, is the school flexible with the military with our schedule? I can answer that actually. So, I'm guessing, Jacob, are you a active duty service member? So obviously, if you're active duty, you might get different orders. The first thing is this: I would tell you, I'm going to put my email in here. Just reach out to me, and I'll be happy to try to explain how everything works if you're active duty. Long story short, we do offer a tuition assistance program, so we will match tuition assistance. Long story short, you're basically not paying out of pocket anything if you're an active duty service member. But what we can do is we can show you how the online courses work. They work in what we call an asynchronous format. That's a fancy word that basically means that you can log into the courses along the way. You just have a module to complete, and that module is due by a certain time period. So for example, this summer when we start our courses, there will be 2 modules a week. You have to make sure that you log in, do your assignments, understand the content, work with your teachers, etc. But what we recommend is that you basically get in there, start working on your project, submit to your teacher as early as possible. What they generally will do is review your work and provide feedback and work with you on it so you can go back and improve it before you actually submit and complete your module. So I can go into far more detail and actually show you how online works, like through the portal, etc. But just send me an email. If you're active duty, I would just tell you that's probably your best bet. because I'm sure that your orders can change, but you will be held to complete the modules. But you will have the flexibility of logging in the morning, the evening, the nighttime, Monday or Tuesday, etc. But you're still going to have to meet the deadline, if that makes sense. But I've been working with military students forever, so I'm very understanding of how orders can change everything very quickly. But reach out to me, I'll be happy to cover that. In what situations are you using flash on your camera?
Anybody want to take that, or do you want me to answer?
Well, the on-camera flash is pretty harsh. So in my experience, never. I try to never use it. But if you are going to use it, I would recommend like putting some kind of diffusion over it because it's just so aggressive and harsh. And if you can get like an off-camera flash that you can remove and kind of move around a little bit more, that gives you a little more flexibility. But I'm sure Mackenzie has a lot more experience than me on flash.
I honestly forgot I had an on-camera flash until I accidentally pressed the button once. I haven't used it in forever, but I really like soft light, so I tend to use it. But I think it would be really cool to do a really cool harsh light or maybe put a gel in front of it. It's definitely still usable. It's just its own style for sure. I wouldn't suggest it for a soft light or to fully light a portrait, but I think it could add something.
We just bought the new ProPhoto A1s, and I'm gonna say I'm pretty impressed for an on-camera flash and how you can manipulate it and the little accessories that it comes with. It's not a bad light source. It really isn't. You know, again, one thing about our school is that we really try and stay current, and I think that is so key to the industry. Is, and my dumb saying, I say this all the time, if you enroll in a photo department, obviously you're not going to use every single piece of equipment that we have to offer. But the dumb saying, better to have and not need than need and not have. Yeah, see, they know that, because again, you want it in the event you want to do a certain type of lighting, you need a certain lens, you need a studio, whatever it is that you need, whatever resource that's going to make the shoot that much better. I feel the Academy can provide it, and if we can't, we want to at least make the effort to make it happen. If it's outside of, you know, our walls, then maybe there's a solution in helping the student get to where they want to be. So. Anything else there, Hector?
Just been scanning for different things. Okay. What about speed lights that can have attachments like softbox, umbrellas, etc.?
We do. Now, again, I was just talking about the A1 that has some accessories, but we also have Canon speed lights with attachments, meaning they have grid attachments, snoot attachments, miniature beauty dishes. I'm not going to say they're super popular. We have them. I think if a student is going to go to the extent of using something like that, they're probably going to most likely rent a smaller pro photo unit that's going to enable them to be very mobile, but yet have far better and more accessories to play with. But to the person that's asking about speed lights and, you know, the accessories that go with it, yeah, we have it. We're very, you know, like I said, it's a very, very comprehensive, very, very well stocked issue room. So
one thing I was going to ask too is, can you talk a little bit about the monitor color correction that we recommend for people? I know that that's something that when we have new students coming in, we generally try to talk more detail about up front. Why that's important.
Rachel or Mackenzie, you want to take that one?
Yeah, color correcting your monitor, I'm assuming is what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, so they recommend you get a spider unit or some other kind of color corrector unit that you can put on your computer and really calibrate it. And then you're supposed to do that consistently so that you know the color output on your monitor is what you're going to be getting when you're printing and everything, so that everything is accurate and consistent.
Yeah, that's really important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the one thing that I can say about, and Mackenzie and Rachel will back me up on this, is as far as like Photoshop or printing, anything that has to do, and obviously, you know, the computer plays a big element into photography. We have a great guy, as I mentioned before, Michael Sims, who I feel is, you know, he just leads the way with making sure that the student has access to the latest and greatest, and very critical eye. And I've always appreciated, you know, his willingness, and just, he's very, I guess, discreet to having absolute quality behind everything that's going to be shown. I'm sure Rachel and Mackenzie, you both have had him as an instructor, right?
Yeah, he's excellent.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody, you know, it's not just Michael. I mean, all the instructors, whether they're part-time or full-time, they have their specialty, years of experience. And that's, I think, what makes the Academy so unique, you know, whether it's more of a fine art application. Our director, you know, has done great work. She's been featured in galleries, I think, all over the world. So every, you know, whether it's commercial, whether it's fine art, I think it's a very well-rounded program. And I think we've brought in the different photographic personalities to make it very dynamic. I think I'd like to say we cover the gamut.
I wanted to add to, somebody asked color correcting images. We learned pretty much from the first semester how to use a gray card, which helps you while you're shooting, finding that correct color tone in post. There's also something called a color checker that we use. We learn how to use an advanced digital capture. So we learn techniques in camera, but also in post. And I feel like that's a little too detailed to go into right now, but that is something that you learn in class.
Hey, question two. Can you talk a little bit? Do you guys know very much about our study abroad programs that we do for with photography? Obviously, you know, in a normal setting when things return to normal.
Yeah, I know that I want to go to Italy. So I don't know a lot about it. I know we offer a program in Florence, Italy. I believe it's 6 weeks. And you're actually in class with an instructor in Florence, Italy. And I'm going to say this, you know, again, I wish I knew more in depth about it, but I feel like all the students, and Mackenzie and Rachel, you can add to this because you probably know students maybe who've done it. They always come back and they're just like, it was the best thing ever. You know, not only did we receive great instruction, we were in this amazing place. And I think, you know, if you have the opportunity to take advantage of that, like studying abroad, being in a place, you know, totally different from, you know, here. I lived in Florence, Italy, and I loved it. I mean, it was amazing. I'm still asking myself why I came back. It's, you know, living in Italy, shooting in Italy, riding my Vespa in Italy. It was too cool for school. I can't say enough about it. But as far as the program itself, I know it's been postponed for, I think, the summer of 2021. they're not doing it for obvious reasons this summer 2020. But again, Hector, I've heard such great things about it. It's one of our big accolades in our department.
Well, thank you. So, hey, anybody have, we're winding down here on time. So I just want to make sure that if there's any questions out there, I would love to make sure that we feed them to John, Mackenzie, and Rachel before we go. Do we have any interdepartmental networking events?
Yeah, we have a big fashion photo meetup. I would say that's the biggest one for photography. This semester, I want to say it was probably the biggest turnout that we've had at the fashion building, but it was fashion stylists, fashion designers, fashion journalism, models from local agencies and freelancing, photographers, instructors were there as well. Are there any other?
It's pretty common. So we invite a lot of Flor Morton in the styling department is really the person that's behind it. I'm really only the guy with the pom-poms to kind of hopefully make it bigger and better, but it's usually around 200 people, very collaborative. And it's just a way of kind of bringing all the resources together. And that's something that I think the photo department has gotten over the last, I want to say 5 years or so. We really now are concentrating on reaching out, to other departments, even job placement. I handle that, internships. We're constantly looking for things, Hector, that are outside of our walls. Obviously, we want to get you the best education possible within the academy, but also reaching out and going beyond that, I think, has become, we've been fortunate. Our department have got students some great jobs. And again, whether it's published work or, portraiture, architecture, it's vast. It's all over the place. And it goes in waves. And, I can't wait to get back into it when shelter in place starts to kind of, soften a little bit.
Yeah. And I would definitely say, camera's back on, guys. I'm here. So I figured at this point I can keep it on. But when it comes to networking, I would just tell you that's going to be very self-motivation too. Like, it's going to be self-motivating or self-driven. You got to keep that motivation to say, I want to say yes to projects. I do want to dabble with other things. Our school is so diverse. I could see that if you're in a position where you want to work with people with other disciplines, the beauty of photography is it pretty much will apply to any other major. I can see people say, hey, can you help me with great photos for my portfolio, recording an album? Can you help me with the artwork? You name it. I feel like you have opportunity after opportunity to network with other people and cross collaborate. But also then things like major events, like working with the fashion department there for working with the film department, working with the acting department. Any type of photography, still life, portrait, whatever it may be, it's all applicable to pretty much anything. So I feel like the sky's the limit to answer that question.
Yeah, I feel our ongoing joke is, we're so many different departments at the academy, but we feel like all the departments need photography. So,
yeah. John, are you teaching any courses for pre-college this summer? Valeria asked.
I hope to. I do. It's so funny because when they first approached me about it, and this is years ago, I'm like, oh, high school students. No, I'm beyond that. And I'll tell you what, I love teaching the AE courses, the high school. They're great. And they're motivated. They're such fun classes, and the work that comes out of it, they have such great ideas. They're not jaded. They just want to produce really fun imagery. So yeah, I'm hoping to do it.
Yeah. You hear that out there, young people? Don't become jaded. That's the root of what he's saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no, and then I would just tell you on my end, I know as we're winding down for time, a couple of things I would tell you. So I'm kind of a dinosaur in my job. I've been around for a really long time and I've had the ability to travel to a lot of places and talk to students. I get a lot of common questions, even, 15 years later, people still ask me some of the same questions. And one thing I would just tell everybody is if you go to a school like ours, that's going to be more portfolio driven, what you have to do is you really have to rewire your brain. And I'll give you some examples. Like when I was a little boy, my family would always tell me to get straight A's. And some of you probably in the chat will agree with me. You've heard that your whole life. Get straight A's. I'm a little older than some of you probably. They're like, Hector, we'll buy you a Nintendo 1. Maybe now, you grew up, it was PlayStation 3. But generally speaking, it was all about getting a certain grade level. When you take courses like this, what I would tell you is this. You have to rewire yourself to think, I need to work on a project and make it the best I can possibly make it. So what you find yourself doing is you're not working on the clock. You're not saying, I'm just going to get it done. If you just get it done, your portfolio is going to look like you just got it done. So the cool thing about a portfolio is if you're passionate, if you're a perfectionist, if you're willing to go the extra mile, the cool thing about that is all your hard work, you get to walk around every day and show off what you're capable of. So this is why I always tell students coming in, it's more challenging than you think because you're always going to have to outthink yourself. You're going to have to figure out how to one-up yourself. Well, how creative can you be? How can you be better? How can you develop? What can you do differently? And I think that if you go into this with that mentality, you start to help yourself see that's really how I'm growing to be a professional. Because if someone's going to want to pay me to do this, I'm going to have to be pretty good. And you're going to have to take some lumps, have some hard nights, maybe have some projects that don't turn out so great. But all of that is a part of the learning experience and becoming a professional. And I'm sure Mackenzie and Rachel, you've probably had a couple times where you had to not throw your camera or not smash your computer or whatever it may be. But that's a part of that process of growing and getting better. I don't know if you two would agree with me about that, but did you ever find yourself just hitting a wall flat out and just needing to just continue to push yourself and dust yourself off to get better?
Yeah, I think even starting out, I was kind of frustrated with like where I was at that point because I wasn't as good as I wanted to be. But I think what I've learned is that just happens over time and you really have to push yourself and like stay in the program and keep working towards what you want to produce. And it's really important to stay with that.
Yeah, I think too, you're right, like having the mindset, it's not about the grades, but the portfolio. And I think also building confidence as an artist and just knowing that you are getting an education and you are applying it and it is making a difference. And for me, just knowing like I can go to a shoot and I know exactly how to work my camera, I know how to work my lighting, and I know what I want from it. Whereas like when I would have first came into the school, I would have no idea and just feel super intimidated. So yeah, I think just you get out what you put in. I think that's just like my overlying statement about the Academy of Art, because it is so reliant on what you do. And same with networking. I've met so many people and that's how I've collaborated and made some of my favorite images because it just, I happen to become friends with a stylist or model and all that kind of stuff. So
That's good. I think that's good advice though. And I think that it's a common theme that you see with people at our university, or even just people that are successful in general. You'll see very common themes where they say, I worked hard and I was dedicated to something and I pushed myself. And very few people are successful that didn't have to earn it and work hard and develop that. So I would just tell everybody, if you think photography is something that you're interested in or you like to do, or you find it fun, there's no reason you can't make it a career for yourself if you want to put in the work, So if you're dating the idea it might not work out, right? But if you go into it saying, I'm going to give it 100%, no matter what highs and lows, I'm going to figure this out and write it out. That's what I think what helps separate people in the end, where they made it through, they finished programs, they have a well-rounded portfolio, and they're ready to start working. So that would be my advice to anybody out there, is if you decide, hey, this is something I'm really interested in, or just want to learn more about it, my department is the team that will start off with just having a one-on-one to talk a little bit about yourself, what you're looking to do, where your skill set is right now. I mean, we obviously will take anybody at any skill set. Even if you're looking to get your master's degree, we have programs to help everybody get started. But I'm going to put my email in here, as well as the link to the application that's right at the bottom there. Please feel free to reach out to me, send me an email, try to contact me if you can. I'm more than happy to basically set up appointments with you to talk to you a little bit about yourself, your background, the school, the program. Even if you end up choosing a different school, it's just not right for you, it's totally okay. My team is just all about trying to help everybody one by one. And if we can help you get on your way one way or another, we're more than happy to do so. So anybody else have anything else to share out there before we wrap it up tonight? Let's see, looking for more messages here. Valeria, is a car window sunshade an okay item to use for a reflective panel, John?
You know, in a pinch, yeah. I would, I mean, because they're typically silver. Silver can be a little bit harsh, but absolutely. I mean, it reflects light. Just remember what I said. The center of your reflector is typically eye level with the subject or higher. Do not go from underneath, right? Because that's the monster lighting. Unless you are creating a horror flick, then it's okay, right? So, but yeah, there's so many things that can be used to reflect light.
Yeah, somebody said, like, can you use a small thing before getting a bigger reflector? And yeah, you can use literally a piece of paper or anything that will bounce off light, usually white. But John was mentioning foam core earlier. Poster board is also really great and super cheap. But it's kind of a fun game to just go around and hold something up and see how it reflects the light and see what you can use.
Yeah, I don't think there's any silver bullet reflector. I think that that's the point of it, though, is that you're going to have to play with it. You're going to have to,
yeah,
you know, you're going to have to find that shot by using your tools. There's no one thing you can buy and it's going to be like, oh, this is working.
No, there's nothing that's all the way, but I think a 5-in-1, as cheap as they are, Hector, I think, you know, you got 5 different surfaces. They're compact, they fold. I think for the money, it's a great way to go.
Yeah.
For, you know, Amazon, 20, 25 bucks to your door, easy peasy. I think it's a pretty effective means for reflecting light.
Yeah. Good. Well, hey, you guys, I want to tell you all once again, as we wrap it up here, folks. So this is our time at this point to say a big thank you to Rachel tonight, a big thank you to Mackenzie, a big thank you to Mr. John Vano here for helping us put this on tonight on our Tuesday night. I did want to also, I always do this as well, just make sure that I'm giving a big shout out to Scott, who's helping us stream everything live on YouTube, and Kathleen, who helps put our Zooms together. So if you guys don't mind, feel free to say, hey, thanks, and shout out to the crew here for putting on the workshop tonight. Really appreciate everybody's time. Got some thank you alls in the chat coming in. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and promote next week's event, which will be our music event with Brad Hughes. This one will be pretty cool. This guy's super talented, so check it out. I think you guys will really like this one. RSVP if you haven't already. This will be the same time next week. And then last thing I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to put in the information here on how to contact me, as well as how to apply to the university. I'm also putting how to apply for the pre-college program as well. So if you are in high school, feel free to follow that link. That'll take you directly to our pre-college program where you can get information and apply Long story short, you can take classes this summer for free online if you're in high school. It's a great way to get started and to dabble with like figuring out what it is that you want to do out there. If you've already finished high school and you're looking to start a degree program, whether that be a degree for undergrad, getting your associate's or bachelor's, or if you're looking at getting an MA or MFA, please feel free to reach out to me or follow the application link. We're more than happy to help you out at that point. Hey, Caleb, thank you for being here tonight too. We really appreciate it, bud. Thanks a lot. I see Giovanni. Gracias. Gracias por todo. Thank you too. Anybody else out there? All right, you guys. Well, hey, what we'll do is we'll do this. We'll go ahead and record. We'll go ahead and stop the recording here, and we'll stop the cameras, and then we'll leave the chat running for a few more minutes here to take any more questions here, okay? So, hey, once again, you all, thank you so much. Rachel, John, Mackenzie, Kathy,
Thank you.
Scott. Thank you all so much. Have a great night, okay? I'll stay back in the chat for a few minutes. Bye, guys.